Welcome, listeners. Today, we dive into a story of resilience, redemption, and the powerful bonds that pull us back to those we love. It's a journey across struggles, surprising friendships, and a mother's unwavering hope to reunite with her lost daughter. Join us as we unfold this tale of courage and second chances. In Los Angeles, the city's heart pulsed with life, beating to the rhythm of bustling people, busy conversations, and clinking glasses. High-rise buildings mirrored the setting sun, casting a warm glow over the streets. Tucked away among the towers and upscale stores was Verona, an exclusive restaurant known for its sophistication and clientele of high society. It was a sanctuary of elegance and wealth, where laughter floated lightly above crystal glassware and silverware sparkled against the white linens. Rachel Thompson, a woman of precise schedules and refined taste, sat by the window as she often did, savoring her view of the city. Rachel had lived her life by rules, cultivating order and predictability in everything she touched, from her wardrobe to her well-managed investment firm. Today was a day like any other, as she ordered her usual grilled salmon with asparagus and a glass of crisp white wine. She thanked the waiter with a polite nod before returning to her phone, where emails and market reports awaited her meticulous review. Rachel had a rhythm to her life, a steady beat of routine that kept her focused and efficient. But lately, there was an ache beneath the surface, a feeling she couldn't quite place. Her eyes drifted out to the city, wondering if anyone could sense the turmoil that had recently started to creep into her otherwise controlled world. Perhaps it was just the price of a life so carefully curated, she thought, a sense of emptiness that came from always knowing what to expect. It was then that a shift in the room caught her attention. The door to the restaurant opened, and silence fell in the air as a man entered, clearly out of place amidst the gleaming surroundings. The man, dressed in worn-out clothes with hollow eyes and an unsteady gait, moved slowly through the restaurant. His presence was jarring in the world of gloss and glamour, a reminder of a different life, one full of struggles Rachel had rarely encountered. He hesitated, his eyes searching for something, anything that would fill the hollow ache in his stomach. Finally, he approached a young waiter, his voice low and trembling, asking for a meal. The request, humble as it was, barely left his lips before the restaurant manager intervened with an unrestrained fury. "Get out of here now!" the manager's voice boomed, reverberating through the room. The man's shoulders fell, his hope shattered by the public humiliation, and he took a step back, his gaze falling to the floor. Rachel felt a pang of discomfort, but the sight of the man was even more troubling as he turned to leave. Around his neck, a glint of metal caught her eye, a small, familiar pendant, peeking out from beneath his threadbare shirt. Rachel's breath caught in her throat, her fingers instinctively going to her necklace, the one she no longer wore but remembered so clearly. The pendant was unmistakable, a small, intricate design she had given to her daughter Lily on her 16th birthday. A memory rushed in, clear as if it had just happened. Her daughter's laugh, her wide eyes shining with dreams as she held the necklace in her hand, delighted by the gesture. Lily, the name echoed in Rachel's mind, accompanied by a torrent of memories she had long tried to bury. Her daughter had left 5 years ago after a night of bitter words exchanged, a conflict of wills that had broken Rachel's heart and pushed Lily into the unknown. The painful parting had left Rachel with nothing but her daughter's belongings and the ceaseless worry that had haunted her ever since. The man with her daughter's necklace was nearly out the door, his face a mask of despair, his shoulders weighed down by years of hardship. But in that necklace, Rachel saw the tiniest sliver of hope, an anchor that might finally bring her daughter back into her life. Acting on impulse, Rachel stood, leaving a generous tip on the table to cover her meal, and followed him out. "Wait," she called, her voice trembling but filled with resolve. The man stopped, his shoulders tensing as he turned, his face, etched with the weariness of life on the streets, softened as he met her gaze, though there was wariness in his eyes. "Yes, ma'am?" he asked, his voice cautious, unsure of her intentions. Rachel swallowed, her heart pounding. She was a woman unaccustomed to uncertainty. But this moment held too much meaning for hesitation. "That necklace," she began, trying to steady her voice. "Where did you get it?" The man's fingers instinctively went to the pendant, a reflex born of protection, as though it were his only treasure. His eyes darkened slightly, a hint of reluctance filling his expression. "It was a gift," he replied softly, as though speaking of it brought him a sense of reverence. "From whom?" Rachel pressed, stepping closer, sensing the gravity of his answer. He hesitated, but something in Rachel's earnest gaze, her desperation barely hidden beneath her composed exterior, compelled him to respond. "From a young woman," he said slowly, his gaze dropping to the ground. "She gave it to me years ago, said it was special to her, but that I needed it more." Rachel's breath hitched. Her heart both ached and soared at the mention of her daughter. Her Lily. She pushed past the instinct to hold back her emotions. The years of distance she had kept from her own heart. "Did she tell you her name?" she asked, barely able to keep the tremor from her voice. The man met her gaze, sympathy in his eyes as he spoke softly. "Yes, ma'am." Her name was Lily. In that moment, Rachel felt her world shift, the years of guilt and sorrow blending into a fragile hope. Her daughter was out there, somewhere, and here, in front of her, stood a man who might be the only link to finding her again. "Please," Rachel said, her voice softened by a plea she never thought she would voice. "Come with me. I need to know everything." Jack shifted uncomfortably, glancing from Rachel to the busy street, uncertain whether to trust this woman who had suddenly thrust herself into his life. The last time he'd placed faith in someone, life had dealt him a hard blow, leaving him with little more than memories and that treasured necklace. Yet there was something about Rachel's presence, her mix of determination and quiet desperation, that softened his usual caution. The glimmer in her eyes spoke of a pain that Jack understood deeply. They walked in silence to a nearby cafe, where Rachel chose a quiet table by the window. She ordered 2 coffees and a modest plate of pastries, her focus entirely on Jack, who fidgeted under her gaze. She watched him, noting the creases in his skin that told of long days in the sun and cold nights with nowhere to turn. He was a man shaped by struggle, yet holding onto an object that had connected their lives in ways neither could have imagined. After a moment's hesitation, Jack took a sip of his coffee, the warmth seeming to ease his guarded expression. Rachel's eyes softened, and she leaned in slightly, her voice gentle but resolute. "Tell me about her," she urged. "Tell me everything you know about Lily." Jack set his cup down and took a breath, gathering his thoughts. Memories flickered in his mind like faded photographs, each one a piece of a story he knew might change Rachel's life forever. "It was a few years back," he began, his voice low. "I'd hit a rough patch, worse than usual. I'd lost my place, was out on the streets, barely making it from day to day. Then, one night, in the dead of winter, I met her." Rachel listened intently, her heart pulsing with a mixture of hope and dread. "She found me in an alley near a soup kitchen. I remember the first thing she did. She gave me a blanket and a hot meal. Just like that. She didn't ask me who I was or why I was there. She just helped. No questions." Jack's voice grew tender as he spoke, and Rachel could see how much this encounter meant to him. Perhaps the only warmth he'd known in a long time. "We became, well, friends, I guess," he said with a faint, rueful smile. "She had this kindness, this need to help people. I never understood why she cared so much. It was as if, by helping others, she found some peace in herself." Rachel's fingers gripped her coffee cup a little tighter. This was her Lily, compassionate, courageous, and unafraid of the world's rough edges. Yet there was so much she didn't understand. What had driven her daughter to such a life? "And she never told you why she was living like that?" Rachel asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jack shook his head, the lines on his face deepening. "Not much. She hinted that she'd left home, but she didn't say why. I figured there was some trouble there, something she was running from, or maybe someone. She was afraid. That much I could tell, but she didn't want to talk about it. Said it was better that way. Rachel closed her eyes, struggling with a flood of emotions. She remembered the fights, the moments when her attempts to protect Lily had been met with defiance. It was a painful memory. Her love had become too controlling, and her daughter, so full of dreams, had resisted every effort Rachel made to shelter her. Rachel's throat tightened as she wondered if this had driven Lily away, into a world she couldn't have imagined. She gave me that necklace on the day she left, Jack continued, touching the pendant with a reverence that caught Rachel's attention. She told me it was special, that it had meaning for her, but she thought I needed it more, said it might bring me luck. Rachel felt a pang at these words, recalling the moment she'd chosen that pendant. Its delicate design, a symbol of the bond she had hoped would one day heal whatever rift was growing between them. That bond had once meant so much to Lily, and to hear that she had given it away filled Rachel with both sorrow and hope. She felt a strange comfort knowing her daughter's spirit, her willingness to care, had persisted even through her own trials. "Do you have any idea where she went?" Rachel asked, her voice trembling. Jack looked down, running his fingers over the pendant. "She was here for a few months, and then she vanished as suddenly as she came. But there were whispers on the street, people who knew her, who thought she might have gone looking for a fresh start. She talked about wanting to find a quiet place, somewhere away from the noise, where she could start over." Rachel held on to his words, taking in every detail. This was her first real lead in years, the first chance she'd had to understand the path Lily had chosen. The ache in her heart felt sharper now, edged with regret. She had spent so long searching, so many nights alone, worrying, wondering if she would ever see her daughter again. "Thank you, Jack," she said softly, her voice laden with gratitude. "You've given me more hope than I've had in a very long time." Jack met her gaze, his eyes softened with understanding. "I'd like to help," he said, his voice steady. "If you're going to look for her. I owe her that much. She saved me when I had nothing left. It's only right I do the same for her, in some way." A flicker of determination sparked in Rachel's chest. This wasn't going to be easy, tracking down her daughter after all this time. But Jack's presence, his shared connection to Lily, gave her a renewed sense of purpose. Together, they would follow this fragile thread, tracing it through the cities, across the unknown, wherever it might lead. "Then let's find her," Rachel replied, a new fire in her eyes. "Whatever it takes." Rachel wasted no time. That very evening, as the city lights glimmered outside her penthouse windows, she was making calls, reaching out to old contacts, and searching online records. Her heart, which had felt hollow for years, was now driven by a fierce hope. Somewhere, her daughter was alive, and perhaps even waiting, unknowingly, for her mother to come find her. Jack had kept his promise. Though he had little in terms of resources, he had something even more valuable, a network of people who knew the streets. With Rachel's support, Jack began to visit familiar shelters, soup kitchens, and alleys he and Lily had once visited together, asking questions, looking for anyone who might remember her. They followed every lead, but the journey was full of dead ends and disappointments. Each time Rachel received news of someone who might know Lily, her heart would leap, only to sink again when the lead turned out to be another false hope. Yet, through each setback, her determination grew stronger. One afternoon, as Jack made his way through a crowded square, he came upon an old acquaintance, a woman named Clara who volunteered at a shelter nearby. Jack remembered how he and Lily would go there on cold nights when they needed a warm meal and a friendly face. Clara's eyes lit up as she recognized him, though she looked at him with a mix of concern and curiosity. "Jack," she said, her voice soft but warm. "It's been a while. How are you holding up?" Jack offered her a tired smile. "I'm getting by. Listen, Clara, I'm looking for someone. Do you remember Lily? She used to come by with me. Tall, light brown hair, a smile that could light up this whole square." Clara's face softened, her gaze turning inward as she recalled those memories. "I remember her," she said. "Kind girl. She used to help me serve meals sometimes, even when she barely had anything herself. She had a heart of gold. That one." Jack's chest tightened with a sense of bittersweet relief. I'm helping her mother find her. She's been searching for years. Clara's expression turned thoughtful, and she nodded. I heard Lily talk about wanting to get away, to find somewhere quiet. She mentioned a place, Cedarville. I think, said she'd heard it was peaceful, a place where she could disappear if she wanted. Jack held on to every word as though it were a lifeline, his heart lifting with each sentence. Cedarville. It wasn't much, but it was a place to start. That evening, he relayed the news to Rachel, who immediately set her sights on Cedarville. The next morning, they were on a flight. The uncertainty of their journey outweighed by the hope that this quiet town might hold the answers they sought. Cedarville was worlds away from the high-paced, neon-lit sprawl of Los Angeles. The town was quaint, with tree-lined streets and family-owned shops dotting the main road. The air was filled with the scent of pine and fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Everything seemed slower here, as if the town itself were content to sit back and let the rest of the world pass it by. Rachel's heart felt lighter in Cedarville, as though this small town had absorbed her years of worry and softened them. She felt closer to Lily here, sensing that her daughter might have felt safe in this place, choosing it as her sanctuary from the world. The detective Rachel had hired had been working tirelessly, and within hours, he had traced Lily to a small, charming bookstore near the town square. Rachel's pulse quickened as they approached the store. She glanced at Jack, who gave her a steady nod, his presence grounding her, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this moment. The bookstore's bell chimed as they stepped inside, and Rachel's breath caught as the aroma of old books and freshly brewed coffee enveloped them. Behind the counter, arranging a row of books with her back turned, was a young woman. Her hair, light brown and loosely tied back, looked achingly familiar. Lily, Rachel whispered, her voice almost breaking. The young woman turned, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of surprise and recognition, met Rachel's. Emotions flickered across her face, fear, hope, a hesitant joy, and then, as though confirming what her heart already knew, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Mom! Rachel stepped forward, her composure giving way to the tears she had held back for years. Yes, Lily, it's me. I've found you. Lily hesitated, her eyes searching Rachel's face, as if piecing together a puzzle from the fragments of her memory. Then, in one swift motion, she closed the distance between them, wrapping her arms around her mother in an embrace that seemed to dissolve the years of distance and heartache. Rachel held her daughter tightly, feeling the weight of her worry lift, replaced by a warmth that filled every corner of her being. Jack watched from a respectful distance, his own heart swelling at the sight. He knew this reunion meant everything to Rachel, but he also understood that for Lily, this moment was only the beginning of a journey that might finally lead her home. They sat together, mother and daughter, in a quiet corner of the bookstore. Rachel could see the weariness in Lily's eyes, traces of a past she couldn't yet share. She knew not to push, allowing Lily the space to tell her story in her own time. Mom, Lily began, her voice soft and hesitant. I didn't think you'd come after me. I thought I'd lost you. Rachel took her daughter's hand, her heart aching with the weight of all she wished she could say. I never stopped looking. Lily, I couldn't. You're my daughter. There's nothing in this world that could keep me from finding you. Lily's eyes glistened, a faint smile breaking through the weariness. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of the love she had longed for, but feared was lost. And though there were still so many words left unspoken, in that small bookstore, beneath the warm lights and gentle hum of the town, she felt, at last, a fragile sense of peace. Rachel and Lily sat together in the cozy corner of the bookstore, the world outside seeming to fade into the background. For Rachel, holding her daughter's hand after all these years felt surreal, as though she were living in a dream. But as the warmth of the moment settled, Rachel could see the shadows lingering in Lily's eyes, traces of a difficult journey and struggles that Rachel could barely imagine. She knew that Lily had suffered, that life had not been kind, and she longed to understand, to make amends for the years they had lost. "Mom," Lily began softly, her gaze dropping to the floor. "There's so much you don't know. Things I never told you. Things I thought I'd never have the courage to say." Rachel squeezed her hand gently. "I'm here to listen. Lily, whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone anymore." Lily took a deep breath, the weight of unspoken memories flickering in her expression. She looked over at Jack, who sat quietly a few feet away, his eyes filled with the same quiet support that had carried her through the hardest nights of her life. She nodded at him, a silent gesture of gratitude, before she continued. "When I left, I thought it was my only choice." Lily began. "We were always arguing. Mom, I wanted freedom, to make my own choices, and it felt like you were trying to control every part of my life. I wanted to be myself, but I didn't know how to do that under the weight of all those expectations." Rachel's heart ached, memories of their last fight rushing back to her. She could still see the look on Lily's face, the defiance and hurt in her eyes as she'd stormed out the door. Rachel had believed she was doing what was best, trying to protect her daughter. But in the process, she realized now, she had driven her away. "I'm so sorry, Lily," Rachel whispered, her voice choked with regret. "I thought I was helping you, but I see now that I was just scared. I was afraid of losing you, of you facing hardships I couldn't control or protect you from. I never wanted to hurt you, but I know I did." Lily nodded, her expression softening. "I know, Mom, and I understand now. I've had a lot of time to think about it. I've been through things that made me realize just how hard life can be, how precious the people who care about us truly are." Rachel held her daughter's hand more tightly, feeling the sharp sting of all they had missed. "Please, Lily, tell me what happened after you left." Lily took a shaky breath, and for a moment, her eyes wandered, as if she were reliving the past she was about to share. "After I left, I went from city to city, trying to find a place where I could feel safe. At first, I didn't know what I was looking for, just that I wanted to be free. But life on my own was harder than I'd expected. I thought I could handle anything, but there were moments I felt so lost and alone." Rachel's eyes glistened, each word from her daughter piercing her heart with a deeper understanding of the struggles Lily had faced. "And then, I met Jack," Lily continued, glancing at him with a smile of gratitude. "It was a harsh winter, and I was barely scraping by. Jack helped me survive. He was a friend when I had no one else. He reminded me that there were people out there who cared, even strangers, and that kept me going." Jack looked down, visibly moved, yet tried to keep his composure. For him, those memories were just as poignant, reminders of his own struggles and the unlikely friendship that had become his lifeline. "But there's more," Lily added, her voice dropping to a whisper, a tremor running through her. "I wasn't just running from you, Mom. There were people I got involved with in New York before I met Jack. They were dangerous, and I saw something I shouldn't have, a terrible thing I can never forget." Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean, Lily?" Lily's eyes darkened, her voice barely above a whisper. "I witnessed a crime, a murder. I thought they didn't see me, but they did. They knew I was there. After that, I couldn't stay in one place. I had to keep moving, always looking over my shoulder, afraid they'd find me. That's why I disappeared, why I never reached out." Rachel's breath caught as the realization settled in, her mind racing with thoughts of the danger her daughter had lived with, the fear that had shadowed her every step. She reached out, wrapping Lily in her arms, as if her embrace could shield her from all that she had endured. "You don't have to run anymore, Lily," Rachel murmured, her voice firm. "We'll do everything we can to keep you safe. I have resources, people who can help. You're not alone now, and you never will be again." Lily leaned into her mother's embrace, the weight of years of fear lifting, if only slightly, as she found comfort in the strength of Rachel's arms. For so long, she had been alone, relying only on herself and the kindness of strangers. But here, now, with her mother by her side and Jack's silent support, she felt something she hadn't in years, a glimmer of hope. a chance for freedom from the shadows of her past. Jack cleared his throat, drawing their attention as he spoke softly. Rachel's right. Lily, whatever it takes, we're here for you. You don't have to look over your shoulder anymore. We'll find a way to make sure you're safe. Rachel nodded, a sense of determination settling over her. We'll go to the authorities. Make sure those responsible are brought to justice. And until then, I'll hire protection. Anything you need to feel secure. Lily looked at them both, a faint smile tugging at her lips, gratitude filling her eyes. She had spent so long feeling abandoned. But now, surrounded by those who cared deeply for her, she felt the smallest flicker of peace. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was running, and in the safety of her mother's embrace. With Jack standing beside them, she realized that perhaps her journey was no longer just about survival. It was a journey toward healing, and one she would never have to face alone again. The days following their reunion were filled with a strange mix of relief and urgency. Rachel knew that with Lily's past hovering close behind, they had to act swiftly to ensure her safety. True to her word, Rachel wasted no time arranging for heightened security. She hired a private investigator and a renowned lawyer to guide them through the legal process. They crafted a detailed report of Lily's experiences, preparing her testimony and gathering every bit of information that could help expose the criminal she had been running from. Lily felt torn between anxiety and a sense of newfound hope. Each day brought her closer to the truth, but it also stirred memories of the dangers she had tried to leave behind. Through it all, Rachel remained her anchor, and Jack's unwavering support steadied her, reminding her that she no longer had to bear the weight of her burdens alone. At last, the day arrived when they would present Lily's story to the authorities. Rachel, Lily, and Jack met the lawyer, a tall, serious man named Henry. At Rachel's office, they gathered around a conference table, its polished surface reflecting the determination on each of their faces. Lily, Henry said gently, his voice filled with encouragement. This is a big step, and I understand how difficult it is. But your testimony will help us bring those responsible to justice and finally put an end to this chapter. Lily nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she held her mother's reassuring gaze. I'm ready, she replied, her voice filled with quiet resolve. I don't want to live in fear anymore. It's time to face this. Rachel felt a surge of pride for her daughter, her heart swelling with admiration for Lily's courage. She squeezed Lily's hand. We'll get through this together. Whatever happens, I'm by your side. With her mother's support and the lawyer's guidance, Lily walked into the police station later that day, her heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. The police chief, a seasoned man with a calm and authoritative presence, greeted them warmly. He had been briefed on the situation and expressed his commitment to ensuring Lily's safety. Sitting across from the police chief, Lily took a deep breath and began to recount the events of that dark time in her life, each word a step toward freeing herself from the shackles of the past. Rachel watched her daughter with a mixture of pride and sorrow. Every detail Lily shared made Rachel's heart ache, but it also strengthened her resolve. She realized just how much her daughter had endured, how deeply resilient she was, and it fueled her determination to do everything in her power to protect her. When Lily's testimony concluded, the police took immediate steps to bolster her safety, promising round-the-clock security and preparing to launch an investigation based on her account. For the first time, Lily felt a glimmer of freedom, a sense that the dark cloud looming over her might finally be lifting. Back at Rachel's home, they gathered in the living room, an overwhelming relief washing over them. Jack, who had been silently observing, finally broke the silence, his voice filled with admiration. You were incredibly brave. Lily, you've come a long way, and I'm grateful I could be here to witness it. Lily smiled, her heart warmed by Jack's words. I couldn't have done it without both of you. You gave me the courage to face this, to finally confront everything I'd tried to run from. Rachel embraced her daughter, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. You're free now, Lily. We all are. It's time to focus on the future. to build something beautiful from everything we've been through. In the weeks that followed, the investigation led to the arrest of those responsible for the crimes Lily had witnessed. The relief was profound, allowing Lily, Rachel, and Jack to finally look forward without fear. They began building a new life in Cedarville, where Lily had found a sense of peace and belonging. Rachel decided to invest in the bookstore that had given her daughter solace, transforming it into a warm, inviting place that felt like home to everyone who entered. The town embraced them wholeheartedly, drawn to their story of resilience and healing. With Rachel's help, Jack found a job as the manager of a nearby cafe, a position that provided him with stability and allowed him to share his story with others who, like him, had once felt lost. Lily, meanwhile, found a renewed sense of purpose, inspired by her journey and the kindness she had encountered. She organized support groups for young people who had experienced hardship, offering a listening ear and words of encouragement. She wanted to give back to the community that had helped her find herself again, to be a beacon of hope for those who needed it most. One afternoon, as spring settled gently over Cedarville, Rachel, Lily, and Jack strolled through the park, the cherry blossoms creating a soft canopy above them. The sun filtered through the trees, casting a warm glow over their path, and a peaceful silence fell as they walked together, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Rachel broke the silence, her voice soft with emotion. "Lily, I never thought I'd be here with you like this. After everything, it feels like a second chance, a chance to be the mother I should have been." Lily stopped and turned to her mother, her eyes filled with understanding. "Mom, you've always been my mother. I know things weren't perfect, but what matters is that we're here now. We've come through the worst of it, and now we have a chance to build something better." Rachel felt a tear slip down her cheek, and she hugged her daughter, her heart overflowing with gratitude. She looked over at Jack, who had quietly stood by them, a reassuring presence in their lives. "And Jack," Rachel added, her voice filled with warmth, "you're family to us now. I can't thank you enough for being there when we needed you." Jack smiled, his eyes reflecting the depth of his gratitude. "You both gave me a new start, a chance to be part of something meaningful. I'll always be here for you, wherever life takes us." As they sat on a bench, watching the world go by, Lily leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, her heart lighter than it had been in years. For the first time, the past felt like a distant memory, no longer a weight, but a source of strength, a reminder of how far they had come. Together, they had found healing, hope, and a new beginning. Cedarville had given them a place to belong, a space to rebuild not only their lives, but also their hearts. The bonds they had forged, tested by hardship and strengthened by love, were now unbreakable as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shades of gold and pink across the sky. They knew that whatever challenges the future might bring, they would face them as a family, bound by resilience, love, and a shared journey that had led them to this precious, peaceful moment. Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt journey. Stories like these remind us of the power of hope, resilience, and the ties that hold us together even through the darkest times. We hope Rachel, Lily, and Jack's story touched your heart, inspiring you to cherish the relationships in your life. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share with others who might find strength in it. Together, let's keep sharing stories that bring light and hope. Thank you for watching.